All right, so we just finished up doing our projected income for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and at retirement. Now we're going to start doing a couple different expenses. And so the first one we're going to look at is rent. So let's say that right now you're paying $500 a month in rent. So we want to know our best estimate of how much rent's going to be 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and also as part of this project, you have to buy a house in 5 years. Now, some of you might already own a house. That's fine. Okay, you don't have to buy another house. But everybody has to own a house at year 5, which corresponds well with the fact they'll then have their full-time job at 5 years. Even though a lot of you won't have a house, I want to make sure that you can do the calculation of how much your payment is going to be 5 years from now so that you can plan for that. So we're going to start out here at basic rent. Okay? So I'm paying $500 today. How much am I going to pay next year? First thing I need is the growth rate in housing. So in other words, how much is housing going up per year? So right now, depending on the time of when you're watching this versus the taping, housing is on a tear. My house is up about 15% in the last 6 months. My best guess is that for the foreseeable future, housing is going to go up about 6% per year. So since housing is going up 6% per year, 6% is our K. So if our rent goes up 6%, that's 500 times future value of $1, K equals 6, N equals 1, which means we multiply that by 1.06, getting us rent a year from now of $530. 3 years from now, $500 times future value of $1, K equals 6, N equals 3, and that factor is 1.1910, giving us $595. 3 years from now is our expected rent. 5 years from now, we have to own a house. So what I want you to do is go out on the internet and do the research. You can go out to Realtor.com, Remax.com, Century21.com, Zillow, tons of stuff out there to show housing. I want you to pick a house that you're going to buy or that you would like. Obviously, I don't want you to pick a $2.8 million house, something there's no way you're going to get into, but something you realistically think you're going to get into. Maybe right now that house is a $250,000 condo. Maybe it's a $385,000 place in Rancho Cucamonga. I don't know. That's up to you to figure out. When you find that, I want you to print out that sheet and include this number in your report. So this person found a house they wanted, and it's right now priced at $315,000. So if right now it's $315,000, is it going to be $315,000 in 5 years? No, it's certainly not. It's going to go up 6% per year. And so we look up future value of $1, K equals 6, N equals 5. We multiply that by the factor 1.3382. That gets us a home purchase price of $421,533. So when we buy a house 5 years from now, if we're going to buy this same house or one very similar in the same area, we anticipate that that's going to be $421,000. We then look at that house at retirement. So how much is our house going to be worth at retirement? Most likely, whatever this starter house is, you will have bought another house, you will have traded up, you will have moved, all that's true. But you don't need to do that for this project. Just keep the same number, like you lived in the same house for 30 years. Okay? So we're going to take $315,000 times future value of $1, K equals 6, N equals 5. And that factor is 5.7435, which gets us a value of $1,809,202. So the year you retire, we anticipate your house will be worth $1,809,202. And this certainly is an important number to know because an awful lot of people are going to be relying on some of their equity when they retire in their house. However, one thing, hopefully, if you're starting early, we'll get into 401k savings a little later, but what hopefully you're going to do is buy a house, have that house paid off at retirement, and you'll have enough savings to where you don't have to cash out your house and move. An awful lot of people, what they do is their entire retirement package is based on they're going to pay their house off, they're then going to move to Idaho, and they're going to cash out their big house and buy someplace that's $35,000. Most of the time that doesn't happen. And the reason is because people don't want to leave family. They don't want to go to Idaho or Wyoming. They want to stay here because all their kids are here, their grandkids are here, their friends are here, their church is here. So people that tend to rely upon this money that they're just going to live off it and move someplace cheap, it tends not to work out. All right, so we calculated how much our rent is going to be 1 year from now, 3 years from now. We found a house that we want to buy, and we figured out how much that house is probably going to cost us 5 years from now. And we also calculated what it's going to be worth 30 years from now when we retire. But we still need to get to how much rent or mortgage payment is going to be. So we calculated our house value at $421,000. Just go ahead and make an assumption that your parents, family, or you got savings that's going to generate, say, $21,000 or $50,000 or whatever that is. And so I'm going to assume that I'm going to need to finance $400,000 of this house. I'm going to get a $21,000 gift, or I'm going to have to take a loan of $400,000. So what I want you to do is go to any big bank website. That could be Bank America, Wells Fargo, any credit union. And so this one I've gone to Schools First Credit Union, and you'll see the landing page there. Usually somewhere under this, it's going to have a tab that says either Tools or Calculators. So this we're going to go from Tools to Calculators to Mortgage Loan, and I'm going to click on that. And typically what this now is going to bring up is a whole bunch of different mortgage calculators to help me with various expenses. The first one you see there is a mortgage qualifier. That basically I put in my income and other expenses. It tells me how big of a loan I could get. And then I want to look at this one, the one that says Mortgage Calculator. All right. So this is going to be the typical page that you're going to see at any big bank for loan information. So I think I'm going to borrow $400,000. So I'm going to type in 400,000. I'm going to come down here to a 30-year loan. I'm going to go ahead and leave this interest rate at 4.25% for right now. Now, I do anticipate that if I was getting a loan right now, loans are real cheap, 2.75%. However, interest rates are most likely going to go up. So we use a calculation here of 4.25%. I'm going to come down. I'm going to calculate. And where it says monthly payment right there, my monthly payment's going to be $1,967. So on your 5-year sheets, you're going to show the purchase of a house. But on the expense side of that, you've got your income that we calculated. Your housing expense or your mortgage payment is going to be $1,967 a month based on the house that you want to buy, the house that you picked out, and the down payment that you assume you're either going to save or possibly get as a gift. We can play with an awful lot of numbers here. I could come up here and see what my payments would be with a 15-year loan. And we see there our monthly payments jump to $3,009. So that's certainly a big, huge swing. Maybe if I'm going to go get a house in Wyoming, and I change this to $125,000, because houses are cheap out there, and I'm going to do a 30-year loan, all of a sudden my housing payment is $615. And then that would be the expense that I would use under housing if I was going to move to Wyoming. All right, so let's look at one more expense. We're going to look at utility expense. We've already done our income. We've done our housing costs for 1, 3, 5 in retirement. Now we're going to do our utility costs for 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now in retirement. I'm going to make the assumption that K equals 4. In other words, utilities are going to go up in price 4% per year, which I actually think is a pretty good estimate for increasing utility costs. It might actually be more, depends on various government regulations and stuff like that, but I think 4 is a good number. So let's say that right now you're living in an apartment or you're living at home and you're donating $100 a month into utilities, or you're splitting a house with 4 or 5 people and utilities are $500 and your portion's $100. If utilities are going to go up 4% per year, next year you got your $100 times future value of $1, K equals 4, N equals 1, so we multiply that by 1.04 as our factor. Your utilities next year are going to cost you $104. 3 years from now, we got the exact same issue. $100 times future value of $1, K equals 3, N equals 3, times, that factor is 1.12409. That's going to get us $112 for your utility expenses. Now, 5 years from now, our utility expenses go way up because we bought a house and we're responsible for the house. I don't necessarily need you to have some big, huge calculation here of how you get this $500. The easiest thing to do, if you're living at home, ask your parents what their total utility bill is and use this as their total utility bill. If you already own a house, then you already know what that is. I don't need you to say, well, my mom and dad's house is 1,800 square feet. I'm going to move to one that's 2,200 square feet, but Fontana's hotter, so it's going to cost me more electricity, but they're charging 3% less per kilowatt. I don't need you to do any of that. Just find out from your parents or someone who owns a house roughly the size you want to move into what their utilities are. But certainly a big jump between splitting with 5 people in an apartment and owning my own house. So 500 times future value of $1, K equals 4. We still got the same inflation factor. 5 years from now, we multiply that by 1.2167. Gets our utility costs of $608. And then that's going to go in the expense line for 5 years from now under utilities. When we retire 30 years from now, we've got $500 times future value of $1, K equals 4, N equals 30. There's our factor, 3.2434. And our utilities are going to be setting us back $1,622 a month. So earlier when it seemed great when you had an income of $300,000, but along with that income of $300,000, we're sitting here at almost $20,000 a year in utility costs alone. So we're going to go down and we're going to calculate all of these for all of our expenses. I'm not going to go through them all because we're all going to go through it like this, but I'm just going to give you some numbers to use for K. What is the inflation or growth rate going to be in that area? So if you look at your current month statement or your 1 year, 3 year, 5 years projected statements, I'm just going to give you some rough averages. Depending on the timing of this video versus in class, I might give different percentages in class because of whatever's going on right then. But these are going to kind of be general numbers that we can use. So housing is going to go up about 6% per year, which means K equals 6. Utilities, 4% per year. We've already used that. Groceries are going to go up about 4% per year also. Groceries are kind of interesting, though. You might want to modify that number. If you're buying 5 pounds of rice, 25 pounds of potatoes, bulk buy cereal, your inflation rate is going to be lower because manufacturing is getting more and more and more efficient. So maybe you're looking at only about a 2% increase. If you buy lots of prepackaged foods, you're buying Hot Pockets, pre-done DiGiorno pizzas, you're buying pre-cooked chickens and pre-made salads in the deli, you're going to be pushing probably a 6 or 7% inflation factor, because that's where all the profits right now are in grocery, and they're still pushing that even harder. Dining out is probably going to be about 4%. Autos are going to go up about 3% per year, but the cost of this and the loan cost of your car has more to do with the car that you pick than the inflation rate. So it depends on what car you're going to get. Medical is going to outpace everything. As we age, we're getting more and more technology, better and better drugs to keep us alive, but some of those drugs are very expensive. We're looking at about 7% per year. Clothing is going to go up about 2% per year. As long as we have lots of cheap labor in China, then clothing is going to go up a very, very small amount. In fact, if you're buying staples, in other words, you're buying T-shirts and jeans from Walmart, from Kohl's, from JCPenney's, from Costco, your inflation rate is probably going to be about 0. T-shirts, jeans, most clothes are cheaper now than they were when I was in college. And that was a while ago. We don't want to talk about how long ago. Life insurances, pretty much all insurances other than health insurance are going to go up at roughly the rate of inflation, which I'm going to guess is going to be about 3%. Taxes, we all know those are going to go up. Who knows how much? But for this project, we're not worried about taxes right now. We got a lot of other things going on, so we've set that by the wayside. Personal care items, laundry, cosmetics, very, very similar to groceries. The staples of personal care products, like a gallon of shampoo, a gallon of conditioner, incredibly cheap. It's going to stay cheap. If you're more like some people that buy like little 4-ounce tubes of hair coloring, and they have a certain shampoo or cream rinse for when they flat iron to repair it, and then to make sure they keep their color, and then to do this, and that. If you're buying stuff from salons, the inflation rate's probably going to run about 8% or so in that area. So depending on your buying pattern is going to be how you're going to do that. If you're buying basically all staples, it's going to be 0, 1, 2%. You're buying half of your stuff at salons, probably 3, 4%. You're buying it all at salons, maybe 7, 8%. So you get to pick the number depending on your life. Then you'll take these numbers for K, go through and do all the calculations like this for all of your expenses, and then fill them in on all of your income and expense sheets. And that'll cover income and expense sheets. Thank you.